We have some breaking Toronto Raptors news as a little Woj bomb has just been dropped about an extension that has been widely reported, has been widely discussed, but it finally happened as Kelly Olynyk is coming back to the Toronto Raptors. He's staying on this team as he's locked in a multi-year contract. So we'll break down this deal, what it means to the Toronto Raptors, and specifically how it affects the main thing Masai Ujiri has sort of been trying to build up with all the transactions, with all the moves that came ahead of this year's trade deadline, as he is looking for flexibility. And this contract does eat into this a little bit, but I do think it makes a whole ton of sense, even though some Raptors fans do disagree. So lots of stuff to dive into in this video, but before we do, folks, again, we are very, very close to 34,000 subscribers. Over 55% of our viewers are not subscribed, so if you're part of that 55% and want to stay up to date with all of the latest Toronto Raptors news, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Got a lot of fun stuff coming to close off this season. But folks, it finally happened. All the sort of chatter, the minor reports, people roasting Grange and Doug Smith for talking about this over the past couple of weeks, but I'll play the Woj bomb animation once again because Woj came out and confirmed that Kelly Olynyk is coming back to the Toronto Raptors. Basically, Olynyk has agreed on a 2-year, $26.25 million contract. So roughly $13 million annually for Kelly Olynyk, and that is the max that Olynyk could have been able to extend on. So basically, the Toronto Raptors, once they acquired Kelly, had in mind to bring him back. And this is the one concern about the trade deadline trade, that we trade away a first-round pick. Again, Abaji, I think on his own, is worth that sort of late first-round pick that we ended up trading because, again, apparently not that super deep of a draft. No, it's hard to really predict that type of stuff, but, the end of the draft is a hit or miss sort of section. Abaji seems like a guy that, again, it could be hit, could be miss, but is showing a lot of potential. But the fact we got Kelly Olynyk on top of it, a player that is established in the NBA. For the Rockets, averaged 19 points per game just a couple of seasons ago. This year, one of the best big man shooters in the entire NBA, a guy that can facilitate at that center position, almost a point center-esque type of player. It's similar vein to what we've had with Marc Gasol when we made that championship run. Obviously, there's things left to be desired on the defensive end, but not a guy that's horrible on that end by any means. He's mobile enough to stay if he switched on to different defender. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is a really nice vet to add into this group of young guys, and especially where our team is built around Scottie Barnes and RJ Barrett, two players that, again, have improved their three-point shots. Scottie Barnes was electrifying from the three-point line early on in the season, cooled off, for the second half of the year, and then obviously went down with a hand injury. RJ Barrett's three-point shooting has improved since he's been traded to the Toronto Raptors, but with our two main scorers not being the greatest floor space, or that being their sort of 1A skill, having a big man that can space out the court to especially be a little foil to Jakob Poeltl is a really, really nice asset to have on your team, and just a really nice piece to have in general. So really happy with this pickup. $13 million per year for, again, Kelly Olynyk. People look at him as a guy that's kind of old, right? Relative to the rest of our team. Goodness gracious. 32 years old. In NBA terms, will be 33 going into next year. But a guy that's not washed by any means. He hasn't shown any signs of slowing down, in his career. And only a 2-year contract, even if things go completely off the rails, it's a very tradable deal. It's a contract that if things get messy, you can attach a pick to it and then really get some decent player back. So really, really happy with the specifics of this contract. And this is the press release basically from the Toronto Raptors. Again, they just kind of summarized who Kelly Olynyk is. But a quote there basically is that we've been a fan of Kelly's game for a very long time. We are thrilled that he will continue his career in Toronto, says Bobby Webster, obviously Toronto Raptors GM. In addition to his unique skill set and ability to stretch the floor, Kelly is a leader and brings a veteran role and a veteran voice to our locker room. Again, he's a native Toronto guy, has been playing for Team Canada for years. Really happy with this. And again, that's another thing that can't get overlooked with this extension. The Raptors have gone young. They traded away a lot of their vets, a lot of their older players. Kelly Olynyk is a guy that has been through it, his entire NBA career. Has bounced around a lot of different situations, some rebuilding teams, some playoff teams. He's just a player that's a vast amount of experience in the international stage and obviously in the NBA. So he can shed a lot of information. He's a vocal guy as well inside that locker room for the Toronto Raptors. So again, another sort of perk, another little positive to have Kelly Olynyk on the roster, but obviously him as a basketball player as well, right? 6'11", 32 years old, but this season averaging 8 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 40% from behind the three-point line. His three-point shot has fallen off a little bit with the Toronto Raptors, even though his points per game has gone up. But, for the Toronto Raptors specifically, 10 points per game, averaging 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.6 steals, which is pretty solid there. I think that's close to a career high. Yeah, a career high there for Kelly Olynyk. The three-point shot hasn't been super consistent since he joined Toronto, but again, it's only 9 games, 26% from behind the three-point line. The law of averages state that will sort of get back to normal. That will get back to where we expect it for Kelly Olynyk there. He's a floor spacing big man. I think by the end of the season, that number will be more closer to his career averages than the complete fall off that it's sort of happened right now at this point. But Kelly, again, can do all those types of things. And just to lock in the shooting a little bit more, from the corners, he's currently shooting 60% from behind the three-point line. Again, that's about 26% of his shots, so not nothing. Again, only a 9-game sample size, but still 60% is pretty ridiculous, for those corner threes, and RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes will definitely be able to give him a ton of those over the next 2 seasons, with that sort of shot going out. He hasn't taken a shot between 16 and 3-point range in those 9 games, which is pretty insane. Doesn't take a lot of middies, a lot of threes, and a lot of stuff around the basket. His 3-point shots, all of them have been assisted on. He's a guy that's sort of a floor spacer, catch and shoot, but can score in the lane and stuff. He gets a lot of dimes. I mean, Kelly Olynyk is a guy that, if he hasn't sold you on his type of play from watching the Toronto Raptors, I don't blame people if they're not watching a few Toronto Raptors games lately, especially with the injuries that have gone down, right? People are kind of speculating that the Raptors might be pursuing a tank to close off this year, praying for Memphis to lose a few more games, so better shot at keeping that sort of first-round pick this season. But there's only real one way to put this signing. There's only real one way to put it, in my opinion. Basically, Masai Ujiri cooked here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But to talk about some of the criticisms that has been thrown the way of this signing, this $26 million per year signing, it is $13 million per year that is eaten up into Toronto Raptors cap space for the future. Now, what does that mean? Because Masai Ujiri, when dealing away OG, dealing away Pascal, had a lot. Basically, the word that was repeated every 5th word was flexibility. Flexibility. The offseason, we can figure out what's going on. We can figure out what to do. Figure out how to build this team. And dealing away vets and these types of things allows the Toronto Raptors to go out in free agency and bring in the types of players they want. Again, are the Toronto Raptors the main sort of destination, the main sort of spot for big name free agents? No, but they can acquire some role players. They can sort of bring some guys in that make a ton of sense for this roster, for this group. So Kelly Olynyk, again, having $13 million per year eaten up for the next 2 seasons, we'll eat into that. But the Raptors are rebuilding right now. I don't think they're going to attract a lot of major free agents here now at this point. I do think the Toronto Raptors are going to try to compete, especially starting up again next season. I don't think there will be a multi-year tank, even if, the team is younger, has some up and down stretches. Kelly Olynyk helps with that sort of veteran presence. He's the guy, exactly the type of player the Toronto Raptors would want on this team. Floor spacing big man that can pass. Exactly a guy that perfectly fits a Darko Rajakovic system around a Scotty Barnes, around an RJ Barrett. The flexibility is sort of to get players that you want on your roster. And at a reasonable contract, hometown little discount there for Kelly Olynyk, right? You eat into a bit of that flexibility to grab a guy you probably would have wanted regardless, in the offseason if that deal sort of went down. I mean, I think we'd all be happy if Kelly was a free agent and we gave him that contract this summer, with some of that money. So, big move, quality move from Masai Ujiri. I don't believe some of the criticisms that's going thrown his way. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys are the best for making this far. I'm signing out. Cheers.